in environmental affairs and professor at the Florida Atlantic University, Mr. John Renne, and from Riyadh, International Fellow for the American Psychiatric Association, Dr. Osama Naimi. Let me start with Professor Al-Naimi. What can you tell us about climate change and its impact on human beings? And how can we adapt our daily life to what is to come because of climate change? Well, good evening to you, to your guests, and to your viewers. We just got out from the pandemic, but we are facing a worse problem. We have been witnessing so many changes when it comes to climate change all over the planet. Everyone is feeling the impact, regretfully, of climate change. And many regions are not ready to deal with this huge impact of climate change. And we do know that when our drastic changes, when we have catastrophes like drought, like floods or wildfires and so on, this is having an impact on the human psyche. This is leading to anxiety, this is leading to violence and to many other psychological problems. So leaders should be transparent about what's happening and should start adopting logical solutions that may be implemented by all. For example, changing the sources of energy, but this, as we know, needs time, and we need solutions now. Yes, so let me go to Professor Renne. We've listened to what Professor Osama said. I mean, we just got out of the pandemic, and now we are facing an environmental pandemic. If we do not move now, it will be hard to avert it for future generations. What do you think?
Yeah, so in the United States, we recently passed a new infrastructure bill that is providing several $trillion for investing in more resilient infrastructure systems. And in my new book, Creating Resilient Transportation Systems, we say that we need to adapt our cities and our systems to withstand the threats of climate change impacts like greater flooding and hurricanes and wildfires. But we also need to mitigate the atmosphere and reduce the amount of carbon emissions that we're putting into the atmosphere. And those predominantly come from our fossil fuel-based transportation systems and our buildings. And we need to look at how we plan our communities to reduce travel that is based on fossil fuels. So we need to, at the same time, adapt, and we need to mitigate against future carbon in the atmosphere.
Yes, let me go back to Dr. Naimi. When it comes to legislations, and I'm talking here specifically about the Arab countries, do you believe Arab countries are late when it comes to new legislations and laws in order to bring awareness amidst the citizens? Because there are many conspiracy theories on the social media who always express doubts about climate change and its impact. Well, regretfully, you're right. We are not informing the citizens in the Arab countries as we should. The Arabs are facing already many problems and tend to think that the environment is an issue for the rich. But of course, I mean, we all breathe the same air and drink the same water, and we will be impacted by climate change as other countries do. And then again, we do not have the legislations, as you said, to end these crimes against the planet, for which we are all responsible. You guessed this right. We need laws, but also there are solutions that can be implemented in the years to come, including with the plan adopted by the Congress recently. But you do know that during the pandemic, we had to stay confined for a few months, and this led to finding solutions to many problems. So we need to concentrate on the environment because we are losing it. And at some point, there will be no way back. Well, let me go back to Mr. Renne. You just talked about this new plan just signed by President Biden. But we know also that, for instance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, legislators, said that climate change is positive, or the increase in temperature can be positive. So there are lots of fake news and misinformation. How can we bring awareness for the citizens?
Yes, I mean we definitely, as a professor and educator, our goal is to get unbiased information out there, that people can make decisions on. And unfortunately, these issues have been politicized, and it's difficult sometimes for people to know what to believe. But I think that the important thing is we're starting to see in the United States that even amongst the Republican Party, which tend to be more skeptical of climate change, we're starting to see that rhetoric change because the farmers and the business leaders in our country are starting to recognize that climate change is real. And what they've said is, they're saying is often that we're seeing climate change, but, well, we don't know if it's being caused by humans. But the reality is, whether you believe it's caused by your human actions or not, we have to take actions to mitigate the problems. And I think we're starting to see consensus across the aisle that we need to invest in decisions that can solve these problems. And I think the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed is an example of an agreement upon these from a political standpoint across a divide. And I think as we go forward over the next decade, we're going to see hopefully less politicization of these topics, because we are seeing such extreme weather events that are disrupting our daily living, our economy, our food production, and we do need to implement some important solutions to address those problems.
Yes, let me go back to Dr. Usama. You are also a consultant for psychology. We do know that any change in our daily life brings anxiety. Now, today, we are changing our way of life because of climate change. How can we explain to citizens that we need to preserve the environment? Otherwise, the impact will be far worse in the future on our daily lives. Well, this is the main question for me, at least. I mean, 1.5 degrees centigrade per year would increase psychological problems by 2.2%. Yes, I got the point, Dr. Usama, but what is the link? What is the reason? I mean, why? This will lead to psychological problems. I mean, the increase in the temperature of the earth. Because we are moving very quickly from a state, of stability to huge changes and catastrophes. when the balance is lost, the body, the heart, the brain, everything is afraid, like we are facing an imminent danger. So human beings become more anxious, more afraid, more violent, and to isolate. You can see that, for instance, in the metro, when people, if it's too hot or there are too many people, would act sometimes in an, let's say, illogical way. So those changes in the patterns of the environment, something that we are not used to, is worrisome. And people will start to worry, to become anxious. They are not used to these patterns. It's similar to what happened following the confinement. So any change in the patterns of life will lead to psychological problems. Do I get you right? Yes, absolutely. That's it. That's it. We had countries who are facing these problems where people are becoming more aggressive, where tourism is becoming difficult. But in countries where you had drought, you face different kind of problems. In Europe, in Northern America, people are also witnessing way more psychological problems than before. And, experts are asking questions. So this is about the psychological repercussions as happened following the pandemics, because the pandemics also had a huge impact on the psyche of the citizens. Let me go back to Professor John Renne. How can we prepare the cities, the individual houses, in order to face climate change in the future? What are the steps that we need to take starting this moment, but at an individual level?
Yeah, there are a number of things that are already happening. There's certainly trying to decentralize the energy grid away from fossil fuel sources. That includes using rooftop solar energy to power the home. The advancement of electric vehicles that can be powered with these solar panels can make a significant difference over time. But the way in which we design our communities is also very important. And so if we look at the urban planning and urban design and make our cities to be more walkable, more bikeable, and allow public transit to thrive, that would allow people to rely significantly less on driving private vehicles. And it actually enhances the opportunity for transit, shuttles, Uber and Lyft, and electric scooters and bicycles and all of those things to actually be more effective and efficient in being successful. So we really need to think about how we've designed our communities over the last 100 years, and we've gone towards a design that focuses on auto-oriented design. And over the last 10 or 20 years,
Yes,
we've
sir.
started to shift away from that, and
Yes.
we need to continue to look at that.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. John Renne and Mr. Osama Naimi. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.